Welcome back, brothers, tourists, and ladies. Man, it's been a long month. To another episode of the Chapter House, the Old Glory Club's look into the men who make up the chapters and the chapters who make up the Old Glory Club. Joining us this week is the William Logan League out of Montana. Now you might be thinking, not me, not you. Didn't you already do a chapter out of Montana? Well, yes, we did, but that was, I believe, central to eastern Montana. This is western Montana out of Kalispell, and representing western Montana for the William Logan League is the once and future king, who I will heretofore refer to as Kang. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. Yes, I appreciate the title of king. I accept that.
Wonderful. And joining him tonight, and you might notice that they're in the same room together, which is always what we like to see, is Redeemed. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Greetings, fellow patriots. It's good to be with you guys.
Yeah, I really love that profile picture of George Washington offering me a can of Boomer juice. That really sums up like the whole of early 21st century history, I think.
It really does. You know, I think it's a good tie to the past with ties to modern American culture. Seemed appropriate.
Yeah, a little modern flair. I mean, you know, if George Washington were transported to today, I think he'd immediately raise an army to go march on DC, and he'd be handing those things out like it was water. So I think he'd be very impressed with the technology.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm an Army veteran, and those things were consumed at a rate that would give most doctors heart attacks if they saw it in person.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea why the Army hasn't contracted with Monster to put little, like teeny tiny cans of Monster Energy in with the MREs, like they do with the Tabasco sauce.
Yeah, right. I mean, they were able to contract with Rip It during the height of GWAT. I think that at least a Monster rep would want to make some sales.
Yeah, but one wonders what you have to do to actually get one of those Army contracts. I imagine it's pretty dark. I mean, do you guys see the conspiracy theories surrounding Monster, that the emblem is made up of the three modern Hebrew letters for 6?
Yeah. I've seen that.
I mean, do you feel the Hebronic energy pulsing through your veins when you've finished a can?
I definitely feel like I'm consuming some good old-fashioned goy slop, that's for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. We're here for the goy slop. And we're here for Kalispell. So for those in the audience who have never been to Kalispell or been to Montana, and people who are, listeners of the show, which everyone should be, they know that Montana is the Big Sky State, and it really earns that name. But I've never been to the Kalispell region. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, first I've got to correct you. It's Kalispell with a P, not a B. Or maybe I was hearing you wrong, but Kalispell. Yeah, it's one of the major population centers of Montana. Although it being Montana, major is very relative and would be fairly minor for most other states. Montana is very sparsely populated, but this is kind of a what might be described as a conservative stronghold in the state. The Flathead Valley here, which is in the north end of Flathead Lake, of course, Kalispell being at the center of the valley. It has grown a ton over the last 5-6 years since COVID. A lot of people aren't happy about that. I am one of the newcomers to the valley. I'm not originally from the Flathead nor from Montana. I'm actually originally from Oregon, just outside of the Portland area. I don't love to tell locals that, but now you all know.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously going to get out. You're gonna be run out of town. I mean, when I was there, one of the locals told me that they don't plow the roads to keep all the Californians out, and I chose to believe him. Is that is that true in Kalispell as well? And forgive the pronunciation. I'm from New England. We don't do consonants here.
I wish that was true. There are far too many Californians who don't know how to drive in snow, and we've had some very mild winters. And I'd love to get a real winter and freeze the Californians out, send them back south.
Yeah, I think the rumor just got started just because of how big of a state we are and how limited our resources are. It takes quite a bit of time to get those roads plowed, even in the center of populated areas. It's pretty common for roads not to be plowed for half a day to a day, unless you're on the interstate or one of the highways.
Yeah, I mean, even the interstates like Route 2, they hug the mountains, right? They go around them. They don't go through them.
Yep.
So I can imagine that takes quite a lot of time, which, again, if you're moving to Montana, you want to be in the middle of nowhere. That's why you're in Montana. So I imagine that's actually quite a draw for a lot of people. So this, you guys aren't far from Missoula. I mean, relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking, yes. It's about a 2-hour drive. It's 120 miles away, but the drive is beautiful. So it feels like hardly any time passes when we do make those trips over there.
Now, before I get into Missoula and how like the influx of people might have changed, like the politics there, I gotta ask, when you guys are going to Missoula, there's a more straight shot through the Flathead Reservation. Do you guys drive through there, or you just avoid the reservation land at all costs?
There's definitely a direct route through there. I mean, there's really only 2 ways that you can take from Kalispell to Missoula. One is directly through the reservation, and one is like right on the border of it, while going through spots that are owned by the reservations. Flathead Reservation is actually probably the nicest reservation in the state. It's pretty clean. It's pretty well kept. Because of the tourism industry, the locals know that appearance is everything, and they want to make money, just like we do.
Yeah, and you also have a majority white population, so there's that too.
The majority white in the surrounding areas, or did we colonize
in the reservation?
Reservation?
No, in the Flathead Reservation, there's quite a bit of white people that own land. It actually has led to quite a bit of disputes with hunters because the landowners on the reservation aren't legally allowed to harvest the deer on the reservation, even if it's on their land.
Interesting. So the people who own the land within the reservation can't hunt the land that they own?
Correct.
Yeah, I've actually been out hunting on a ranch that was right on the border, and they had some property on the reservation and some north of the reservation, and we just had to make sure that we were only hunting north of the reservation line on their ranch, because you will get in major trouble if you hunt on reservation land without being a feather Indian.
Okay, so you have to be a member of the tribe in order to hunt the land, basically.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, I can see where that would be a pretty easy demarcation. I mean, I'm glad to hear that Flathead is a nice reservation. I was on the outskirts of the Crow Reservation in Billings, and
Very different story.
Well, yes, it's a very different story. It was, when I think of reservations and the attendant alcoholism, it pretty much made itself known there.
Yeah, the Blackfeet Reservation is probably worse than the Crow Reservation.
Well, to be fair, they do share a border with Canada. So.
Yes, yeah. They get a lot of cartel drug trafficking and human trafficking on the Blackfeet Reservation because they have a border with Canada. It's pretty bad.
Damn, and that's something the state can't really. In New England, we assimilated all of our tribes, right? They all became their names are all forgotten, and for the most part, the only land that we have is like a 10 square mile plot where they can put a casino up. So I don't know, like, the state's not able to really enforce anything on the reservations.
Correct. That's all left up to the tribal police. And because of the size of the reservations, even if the tribal police were able to do anything about it, the relationship between their local law enforcement and state agencies or other local law enforcement agencies is tenuous, to say the least.
Yeah, I suppose not being into human trafficking is a white thing. But
no comment.
So getting back to the question that I had, you mentioned that you got a bunch of transplants into Kalispell, and I imagine across Montana in general, anywhere that people could escape the consequences of blue state politics. Now, there's for a long time, people have been kvetching about this because they don't want the blue state politics to come with the blue staters. But a part of me, I guess I kind of convinced myself of this without seeing any data. We're purely vibes based here at the Old Glory Club. But it seems to me like it's a self-selection mechanism where people who don't like the blue state politics are moving to the red states. Is that largely true in Montana, or at least in Kalispell, or are they coming in trying to make Kalispell more like Missoula?
I think it really just depends person to person. I can't say that like everybody that's coming here is a so-called political refugee. The town north of us, Whitefish, is pretty lib-coded and full of tons of people that have made money in ways that don't actually produce any value.
Awesome.
But for Kalispell area and some of the smaller blue collar towns within our valley, that's largely true. I would say about 80% of the people that are coming here just were living in the worst places you could possibly imagine and just wanted a place where they could raise their family and not have rape gangs targeting their children.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I mean, to some people that sounds crazy, but I'm sure they don't watch this show or they're hate watching. Hello, we appreciate your numbers. Thank you. So, I mean, I saw shirts when I was up there saying "Make Missoula, Montana again," and Billings is quite a ways from Missoula. Do you guys have like a? I mean, you're relatively close, but still pretty far away. Is there still like a does it kind of hang in the ether that you have this kind of like you have this university like micro city that everyone kind of hates?
Yeah, I don't know about I guess it does kind of hang in the ether. I mean, it's the university itself is largely a humanities study university, so they're really big into the social sciences and the pre-law degrees, whereas the other universities in Montana are more into the actual sciences. And so between that and just the vibe of Missoula, if you ever go to Missoula, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. For whatever reason, outside of the university, it just attracts more liberal people, maybe in part because of the recreation that's available there, and because it was the first place in Montana to start the microbrewing scene, which all the guys that were involved with that were very liberal. It hangs out there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as a millennial, I watched the kind of IPA craze, and even as it was starting up, it coded as being very gay, but a lot of ostensibly straight men got into IPAs really hard. So if it started in Missoula for you guys, that kind of tracks.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the home of the tranny Bud Light spokesperson. It's one of their state legislature nominees, and so as a fellow IPA drinker, it hurts my heart to say that I maybe a little bit gayed myself in drinking them, but I also want to bash Bud Light and make it so there's equal hate across different types of beer enthusiasts.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Gen Z doesn't really drink anyway, which is going to mean two things for us old heads who actually enjoy life, that we can get booze cheaper, but the downside is that it means there's probably going to be less variety in the not too distant future. Oh man, we're already booming out. That's awesome. So
it's okay. I'm a Zoomer. I bring the age down in this call.
Yeah, you're keeping our average age down below 50. I appreciate that. Actually, I don't know how old. I don't think the oldest millennial is in his 50s yet. Oh, whatever. That's for another show. So before the show, or actually just earlier, you mentioned that you guys have been getting some pretty mild winters up there. When people think northern Montana, they think really harsh winters. So what is mild for you guys?
Yeah, so for most of the states, just to paint a picture, if you're east of the Continental Divide, it's very common to be below zero for weeks on end in the months of January and February in particular. Within the northwest corner of the state, our climate is a lot more like Pacific Northwest climate. So during the winter months, it hardly gets below zero here. It's typically in the 20 degree to 30 degree range. And the harshest part about living here is actually the lack of sunlight, I think, compared to the cold. Once you acclimate, it's pretty easy to deal with the temperature. But as soon as October comes by and those clouds roll in, you're not likely to see the sun very much until March or April.
Well, I mean, that kind of fits with it being a super white area. I can imagine that the nons there get pretty damn depressed for most of the year.
That's actually a great thought.
Yeah, you would think so, but they still keep coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, are they really coming, or are they being dumped there? That's the question. So I guess this is a good segue into the question that's always asked: Jeep menace.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of them. We've been seeing quite a few refugees from Republic of Congo. Yeah, your typical upstanding citizen types.
Yeah, there have been more and more Jeets since I've moved here, and I hate it. But there's just been more and more diversity. And this winter, usually it's like they come in this summer and then they leave for the winter. But this winter, there was a major influx of permanent residents coming in of non-Americans.
They just kind of stayed, huh?
Yep. And That is, of course, very upsetting to all of us here in the William Logan League. We're trying to figure out who is bringing them in, because it's not organic. We're quite sure of that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was not too long ago was in Rochester, New York, and for those who don't know, Rochester, New York is one of those places that suffers from the lake effect that is famous in the Great Lakes, where during the winters, it's extremely cold and they get mountains of snow dumped on them. I was there in the winter, and I couldn't help but notice the sheer number of Caribbeans that were there, and trying to imagine somebody from Jamaica saying, I want to go to the United States. I think the place I want to go to is one of the snowiest in the country. That really fits with the things that I like. It just doesn't really, that's not a thing. So obviously it's not organic that any of these places are being filled up with the global South. But I actually had this brings into a question on what local politics and Kalispell are like. It's one of these things where when you're trying to ask what the normgroids are aware of, like, they're not aware of much, right? But the local politics, the people who get into it, might be a little bit more keyed in. Is there, I don't know if you guys pay attention to the local political scene. You should. But are they, like, is there like any kind of reaction to this?
Yeah, sadly, I am very keyed into the local political scene. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this is a conservative stronghold, but that really isn't actually saying much. The local Republican Party of the Flathead County has they've failed in most areas, completely ignored the city elections and allowed a liberal from Portland to become mayor, allowed most of the city council positions to be grabbed by leftists. And so even though Kalispell is probably a light red city, it is controlled by leftists pretty firmly, because the local Republicans are incompetent and care a lot more about party drama than actually winning and getting things done. They're also very, very boomer coded, and so there is in no way would anyone in local politics call out immigration if it's legal. They just automatically support it if it's legal. They might complain if it's explicitly Muslim, and they'll complain a little bit if it's illegal, but usually they just look the other way because they like the cheap labor. And our houses built crumbly. But the local politics is so pathetic, and they have a stranglehold where there's a particular faction in the Republican Party that has a stranglehold on the county. They control it very firmly because mostly just boomers vote in the primaries, and so they're able to control it through that. But they're incompetent, and their politicians that they send to Helena are really, really dumb. Even though they're the more conservative, supposedly conservative side of the Republican Party in Montana, they're idiots who don't understand how to work politics, how to build alliances and get things done. Instead, they grandstand and tend to actually be pretty poor in regards to the financial side of policy. And supposedly they're, fiscally conservative, but they do a really terrible job of trying to show that on the state level.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of speaks to the conservatives across the country, right? To the extent that there are good Republican in this country, they're in places that nobody's heard of, and nobody talks about them because they're in such a small minority, right? So I wouldn't really expect Kalispell to be any different. I guess you said this is Flathead County. So it sounds like this kind of thing is ripe for takeover. And I suppose that this is a thought more about local, county, state GOPs across the country. But, the boomers, they want to pass the torch, but it seems that they only really want to pass the torch to the global south. They only want to pass the torch to Browns or people who share their fetishistic love of Browns. I mean, I don't know if you talk to a lot of those guys. You said you're pretty well into it. Is that the same kind of vibe? Are they really excited to be able to hand over the keys to the kingdom to foreigners?
Yeah, it seems like that. I personally have people at different levels of the government and within the Republican Party, and because of the vibes that Montana gives off, it attracts people that are very libertarian coded.
Yeah.
And so like your base conservative, most likely, their primary concern is GDP go up at any cost. And so, yes, it's very frustrating having to deal with these people that call themselves conservatives, but then have no care for preserving jobs for local Montanans, and would just as fine see that work given to H-1B employees.
So you'd mentioned like the, every party is controlled by its donor class. What is the big business up in that area that controls the party there?
At the state level, our current Senator Daines and our current Governor Gianforte, they have kind of a donor base that is the controlling donor base of Montana politics, although that's more on the federal level. In regards to the state legislature, there's a kind of a civil war between sort of those guys. They have their associates, but it's very splintered. And then you have what is called the Freedom Caucus here in Montana, and they are very libertarian coded, supposedly super conservative, but they tend to find the most stupid candidates. So not only are they conservative boomers, not only are they libertarian coded, they're also just like dumb people. People that definitely shouldn't be voting, much less running for positions in the government. And yet they control the Republican Central Committee at the state level, and they can mostly control the legislature. But it's just, you have complete idiots running the Republican Party. And at the same time, it's actually been pretty unorganized. So I think it is ripe for infiltration. That window may be going away pretty quickly, because this past primary, there were millions and millions and millions more dollars spent on the Republican primary than has ever been spent on the Republican primary here in Montana. So we have a lot of out-of-state money being dumped here. And so yeah, if that's the future of Montana politics, then things are really going to look different. But that may have just been a one-time thing that hopefully won't happen in 2 years, but it probably will. It's probably a more permanent thing. Some of that is, of course, money from the tribal people coming in when they've had less influence in past years.
Right. You don't mean the tribes from the reservations?
No, not those not native tribal people.
Yeah, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down there. Yeah, I mean this seems to be I mean, not to get too far into national politics again, Montana is experiencing the same thing that Kentucky experienced, right? Like there's a faction that is feeling their influence slipping, and the only thing they have is money. But I mean, it seems like if that's what they're trying to do in Kalispell or in Flathead County or in Montana in general, it again, this is one of those things where it's always the youth who get things done. So I mean, money only matters to people who are materialistic and it can be ruled by money, right? Have the love of money. So hopefully, there's enough young. I don't want to say ideological, young principled men who can get in there and start smashing things. But I suppose
the problem with Montana is that because we have such an independent streak. Like I think a third of Montanans identify as independent. They tend to very easily get tired of politics. And so then you just end up with your loyal Republican boomer voters in the primaries, which you can try to beat with lots of door knocking. I was personally part of a campaign helping do a lot of door knocking for the primary. And the results were disappointing. Very low voter turnout, even though like actually knocking on doors and talking to people, great results. I was very, convincing. People really liked what I had to say and how I was trying to sway their votes. But then, they just didn't go out and vote. And you just simply had the boomer core vote in the primary and then therefore determine the outcome of the election, because most of the seats in Montana are districted in a certain way so as to be either strongly red or strongly blue. So the primaries are where the election actually happens, and the general election is just a foregone conclusion for one party or another. And yeah, young people are not voting very much, and especially not voting in primaries. So it is incredibly difficult to change the tide here in Montana, here in the Flathead. We can make some progress, but we'll see. I mean, guys in our chapter are fairly involved in various levels of politics here in Montana, whether it's county level or state level. And so we have our ear to the ground. I have several really great contacts who are definitely our guys, swaying, influencing people at the state level. But there's only so much that they can do. And they definitely can't out themselves as our guys, or they'll lose their influence. So I'm not necessarily white-pilled on politics here in Montana, although I do think Montana is still very ripe for the change that we need to see in here in America. But that's not always not always happen through the electoral process. So
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know we talk a lot about politics, but obviously we at the OGC are not. We didn't come together for electoral politics. Just is always it's always on the mind for anybody who seems to care about what's going on in their home. So, I mean. I was hoping for a rosier picture, but you know what? You get what you get.
This
Kind of shifting that a little bit to the larger OGC. Do you guys get a lot of crossover? I know it's a long way, but you guys get a lot of crossover with the well, I suppose either with the Tamarack guys to your west or the Lewis and Clark guys to your east.
Well, being a newer chapter, we haven't gotten a lot yet. We have met, a good amount of the guys out in the Lewis and Clark Society. We were actually, us founding members became members of the Lewis and Clark Society first before we became an actual chapter ourselves. So we know them over there in central Montana. But we are looking forward to meeting the guys over in Idaho, probably in a month. I think that is, if I have less than a month. We should meet some of them, and hopefully a few of us will get out to Colorado and the Cascade Frontier eventually, just meet our brothers scattered across the Northwest. Me being from Oregon originally, I definitely want to meet Cascade guys, which will be easy. I'll just go visit my parents and then meet some of the guys who are out in the Portland area.
So was it Redeemed or Kang who was originally from Portland?
It was me, Redeemed.
No, me, King, originally from Portland. You're from
Kalispell.
The Kalispell area. Yeah.
Sorry, I misheard.
Oh, so I know that you said Redeemed. You're a Zoomer, right?
I'm a baby millennial,
so you're right
2
on the
months.
Yeah,
So
I'm
you
the
kind of
Zoomer.
watched this kind of change in the Kalispell area since I guess since you were incepted. Is that where you were born?
Yes, sir. I was born here in the 90s. Used to be just a little rinky-dink town. Northwest Montana was originally settled by my ancestors. They were settlers and loggers. And really logging was one of the main industries for Northwest Montana, made by the railroad. And so growing up as a kid, it was a sleepy little town. Everyone was poor unless you worked for the local hospital. The area that I grew up was kind of the heart of where blue collar families lived. We have a couple of sawmills, and we used to have an aluminum plant. And so growing up, I had what used to be the typical American experience of having friends that I'd ride my bikes with that lived just down the street, and getting into trouble in the woods and the creeks and the rivers and lakes, and not having to worry about running into other people on the hiking trails. I grew up hiking and doing a bunch of adventure sports from a young age, and the explosion of people, it's still hard to comprehend sometimes. You mentioned this being the Big Sky State. Up until I went to college, most people actually identified it by what we are, which is the Treasure State. And I think the production of the Yellowstone series, along with the all of its sister shows, has completely transformed the area in ways that are both good and bad. I mean, it's nice to actually have the opportunity to make a living, as slim as that can be in these times. But the culture has surprisingly not changed too much. I mean, just because of how strong, I think because of how strong the libertarian values are to the area. It's still live and let live kind of mentality. And so there's tons of work to be done, but the mentality I've had is you just got to take the good change with the bad and work on the bad as best as you can with the tools that you have.
Now, you say you remember kind of being a free range kid. Is that still something that happens up there, or has it changed enough where people are like keeping their children inside and not letting them wander the woods?
Yeah, it really depends on the area that you live in. We have quite a bit of gated communities across the valley, and quite a bit of farmland as well that's still active. And so I know for the cities, like there's a suburb of Kalispell called Evergreen that borders the city. I know if I were a parent, I definitely wouldn't be letting my kids hang out unsupervised. There's also a town out in the canyon between Kalispell and Great Glacier National Park. That area can be kind of sketchy as well. But if you're in one of those gated communities, one of the nicer neighborhoods in Kalispell proper or in that farmland, it absolutely still is pretty common to let your kids have free range. I have 3 siblings, and they all have no problem just letting their kids do their own thing because they're blessed to live in areas that are nicer.
So your siblings stayed around?
Yeah, my parents have done everything in their power to make it so that we can all stay together. I mean, we really do view this land as our land, and this land as our birthright. And I'm very thankful that my parents have done what they can to make it so the 4 of us can live here.
Well, God bless. That is not a common story these days. I'm glad to hear it. Could you tell me a little bit about William Logan?
Yeah, well, there's actually several William Logans, 2 William Logans, a father and a son that we named our chapter after. So the senior William Logan, he comes from Clan Logan, originally, up in Scotland, which has ties to Robert the Bruce. And you can see on our flag, we chose that same Latin phrase, hoc majorum virtus, which means valor of my ancestors, which is something we want to invigorate in our members here in our chapter. But anyways, the senior William Logan came to America, and he ended up enlisting, joining the U.S. Army, fought in the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, and then came out west with the 7th Infantry, and fought Indians. He was an Indian fighter, well loved by his men, but he ended up actually dying at the Battle of Big Hole, which is where the U.S. Army was chasing the Nez Perce Indians as they were trying to escape their containment, and they fled Eastern Oregon originally, and then eventually were contained and put in the reservation south of here. But anyways, he died in that battle. However, him being a great man, he had 2 sons who were very significant in the Flathead Valley, in helping establish the settlement here. His younger son was Sidney Logan. I have notes here. Yeah, Sidney Logan, and he was acting a local attorney for the county, I think the first attorney, and then later became the mayor of Kalispell. But really, it's the junior William Logan who embodies what we want to embody here at the William Logan League. He explored, loved the natural wonders around the valley, and especially explored what eventually became Glacier National Park. So he helped establish that as Glacier National Park, became the first superintendent of the national park. He was also, just like his father, an Indian fighter, and he also helped clear the Indians out of Glacier National Park to establish it as a national park. And yeah, that is definitely what we want to be here at the William Logan League. Maybe different kind of Indians, but still we want to clear them out, and we want to establish roots and become the leaders of our area of Western Montana, and lead it into a better direction that's not so libertarian coded.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a heritage, and definitely one worth living up to. It's great to hear that you have your roots going so deep in this area in particular. I mean, again, places like Kalispell and places that are more remote tend to, bleed young people into the IQ shredders that are the larger cities.
Yeah.
So it's a rare thing to be able to stick around and actually do that kind of stuff. As far as a chapter goes, have you guys attracted mostly people who are from Kalispell, or people who migrated there recently?
Most of the people that we currently have, it's about a 50-50 split. I think right now we've got 4 guys that are local to the area, like 5